All right. Now we could leave it like this if we wanted to. I'm going to show you another cool thing though that you could do optionally because we haven't talked about gradients. Let's take a rectangle tool, roughly right around there. Get rid of the stroke. We'll make the background color this, but we're going to click on this and change from solid color to linear gradient. So what we can do is we can create these gradients and we can change the color of each of these different gradient stops. We can also reposition the gradient. So if we want a gradient that faces this way, we could push that right there. And the darker one, let's make our original color right here. And then we'll choose this one right here and take the opacity slider all the way down. So what that does is it creates an effect where it kind of fades off these areas right here. So now I can duplicate this, hit Alt, and then just flip it so it goes to the reverse side, and then push it over here. We'll have to take this, right click, we can choose arrange and bring to front so that it is not on top. Although its blend mode is screwing it up. So let me resort these a little bit. Let's take our scroll group right here as well as these two, and let's put them underneath wherever this shows up. Let's see here. Oh, we also want to take this background right there. There we go. Now it's working properly, and we don't have it overlapping. So now if we hit play, look at that. Look how cool that is. Awesome. All right, and so let's go ahead and do one more section of this this design right here, and then we'll get into prototyping and animation, all that cool stuff. Let's go ahead. Let me think here. Is that was a scroll group? Let me undo that. There we go. Okay, so now we can move this up. We can select both of those elements, holding Shift, and move those up as well. We just want them in like a good amount of white space on the top and even amount as well as the bottom. We can also take this and move it up slightly with our keyboard arrows. And if you wanted to, you can go in and select each one of these individually and change the pictures. But I'm not going to do that. So now, in this next section, let's have like a contact area with a map. And excuse me, I just started recording right now this morning, an hour after waking up, and everything you saw prior to this moment, I recorded yesterday. So if my hair's different and I look different, my eyes are puffy, that's why. So getting back to what I was saying, we're gonna create a contact section down here, kind of like a 2-column, 50-50 sort of deal, where on the right, we're gonna have a scroll group where you can scroll on the X and Y axis with like a Google map. And then on the left, we'll have like a contact form where we'll use both components and stacks. All right, so first thing I want to do is take our artboard. We'll go ahead and give ourselves a little bit more room to work with, not too much. And we're going to create a 50-50 column. So we'll take the rectangle tool, and when we hover over here, we'll see it lets us know where the exact center of the artboard is. Once we have that, we're gonna left click and drag out an area. It's probably not gonna be that long, actually, probably right around here. And this is gonna allow us to put in a photograph of some sort, like a Google Maps view. So all I'm gonna do is, if I come out here, we'll go to maps.google.com. Did I just type goggle? There we go. And I type in some, address like 90210 Beverly Hills, California. All right, so here's Beverly Hills, California. And all I want to do is, I use this screenshot tool. I hit my print screen key. You're not going to be able to see it while I do it. But I'm just going to get and save an image of what I screenshotted. I'm going to call it maps2. So I just saved the screenshot. You can see it's maps2.jpg right there. And so I unmaximized the screen so that I could just see my desktop. And then just with this selected, I will left click and drag it in. All right, very, very cool. So now we have this fictional location for our business. And let's say, for instance, we want to be able to make it so that people can zoom around in it or move it around in an XY axis by grabbing it or whatever. So if I double click into it, you'll see we have the ability to, make it larger if we wish or whatever. So I'm just going to make it a little bit larger. I'm going to take this and then we're going to click on this, the horizontal and vertical scroll option. So if we extend this back out a little bit, and then we go ahead and click play, we'll scroll down. Oh, it's not working. And I think because if I double click into it, we need to make sure it's larger. So it didn't maintain the first time I did that, but let's go ahead and click play and it will work now. So there we go. All right, very cool. So in the left section, we'll just have an accompanying area that has where it says contact me. So let's go, or contact us rather. Let's get our grid back out. This time, because we have a pretty large area in this portion, we're gonna put a piece of text right here on the first column, and it'll just say contact. Make sure this is left justified. Make this black, and we will go ahead and hide that grid. All right, so now we just need to make this larger. Contact us, or contact, whatever you want to call it. So right here, there's a lot of different ways to put a contact form information. We're going to do like a form field, just with 2 fields. So the first field is going to be name. We'll make that smaller. We can also make it, in order to reinforce that visual hierarchy, regular. We'll take the rectangle tool, and somewhere around there will work. Now, let's go ahead and give us a slight border radius, not like a full pill. I mean, you could do this. You could do this very slightly. Now, when it comes to borders and strokes on your form elements, it's very important that they're visible. For instance, if we took this off, this may not be visible to some people with vision impairment issues. So we can definitely leave a stroke, but it doesn't really have to be this dark. So we just take the color, drop it down maybe around there. You could also make it thicker if you wished, but I'm just going to leave it right there. And then we'll take name, we'll take both of those rather. And oh, by the way, this would be a good use case, because form elements like, text fields and all that are elements that are reused commonly in different parts of an app, like a login screen, like this might have a login screen or whatever. So anything that's reused, of course, is a very good use case for components. So if I right click, you choose make component, it's now a component. It will show up inside of our component section. This would be a very good idea at this point to go ahead and, like if I click this here, make sure that's the right one. To rename it, just call it text field and rename all these appropriately as well. And now we have the ability to edit the main component and all that stuff. What we're going to do here is simply we'll group this up. So to create a group manually, you just hit Control G or right click and make group. You can see it's called group 13. We'll just call this text element or form element. And then we'll go ahead and duplicate this. So Control D. Let's go ahead and name this one. This will be like the message. And this will be like a text area. So we can just double click and drag it down so they have a little bit more space to type. All right. And then we'll have an actual button. So if we go back to our assets we have a button component right here. You see where it says try for free. We can edit the instance text, of course, send message. But I think this is a pretty big button. So we could just double click and select on the text layer, drop this down in size, and once we make that change, everything will fall in automatically due to the automatic padding that's applied. So that's looking pretty solid. And there we go. So we can also, as I mentioned, utilize stacks here if you wish, just to show you again. It's good to get muscle memory. In this case, it's probably not so important because we can move things easily around. And plus, it wouldn't make sense necessarily to use stacks here. If we right click, make component, and then choose stacks, then we have the option to double click into here, move things around if we wish, but it would not make sense to put the message at top. But again, it's a good idea just to get in habit of knowing how to do this stuff. So that, I'm gonna say, is it for the homepage design. Of course, you could add a footer if you wish, and that would be a good exercise if you wanted to. But we're not done yet because I haven't showed you any of the prototyping and animation features. So again, here's a final look at what we have going on. Pretty solid. All right. Okay, so now at this point, let's say you're happy with it. You want to save this document, all right? So Control S to save, and if you're doing it for the first time, you have the option to save it locally on your hard drive or in the cloud. You'll see those options. Now, let's say, for instance, we want to design a page that shows what happens when somebody clicks on the Watch a Video button. All right, there's many approaches that work with this. A common approach is you click on Watch a Video, and instead of redirecting you off the entire page, a little window or a modal kind of shows up, and it dims out everything behind it. So we're going to take that approach. And we're going to create a couple artboards to create a multi-step animation for that using what's called auto animate. So first thing we'll do is we'll duplicate this artboard. So you select the artboard, hit Control D, it'll just place it right to the side. So now we can just call this video player or something like that. And what I'm going to do at this point is we're going to delete everything beneath here. Actually, no, we're not. I lied. We're going to delete everything right around here, all right? And then this stuff, what we'll do is we're going to push it down. So basically I've selected everything like this, just left clicking and dragging. We're gonna hit shift and then left click and drag down just outside of this viewport dashed line right here. Then, with it still selected, we're going to take the opacity and drop it all the way off. Then, and you'll see why I'm doing this in a second, I'll explain. We're going to take all this stuff in the left column. We're going to hold shift and just move it over a little bit, and then also hide it. And then we're going to do the same thing with this element here. Move it over to the right, and then hide it as well. So let me show you why I did that. So we're going to take our home canvas here, our artboard. We're going to go to prototype, and when somebody clicks on this icon right here, or not icon, but the piece of text that says Watch a Video, we're going to drag, left click and drag over to this artboard. So when we do that, we can see that it's created this little connection. And over here for interaction in the properties inspector in the panel, we see it says a trigger is tap. That means to click on it or whatever. You can see there's also different types of triggers like a drag trigger, keys and gamepad, and voice even. Then underneath it we have action. We have a type of transition. We have auto animate, overlay, scroll to, previous artboard, audio playback, and speech playback. So these are all things that you can experiment with on your own. I'm going to show you what happens when we just do a simple transition. When it comes to the transition, you'll see we have the option to preserve the scroll position, like wherever they're scrolled at and viewed, based on the viewport and all that stuff. Animation type, we can make it slide left, right, up, down, push left, push up, right, down. There's a easings, which affect how the animation is applied, and then also a duration. So let's go ahead and hit play. And if we click this, it's just going to fade all that out. Now, if we change this to the animation type to auto animate, you'll see the options change a little bit. Actually, we have fewer options, but watch what happens now. You see how they kind of just pushed out and down? Well, that's the awesomeness of what is auto animate, because it's going to look at exactly where things were, like where this stuff is, where this is, and where this is. And then it's going to create a seamless transition or an animation based on where they're going to and the properties that have been applied to them in the destination artboard right here. So that's really cool and allows you to create these interesting sorts of animations, of course. The next thing we can do is let's see here. Yeah, let's do an overlay here. So let's go back to design. And we're going to start on the very upper left and right corner to consume the whole screen, essentially. And we're going to create like a darker overlay, and then take the opacity down, maybe right around here. All right. And right now we're going to, by the way, we can also, because we know our artboard doesn't need to be this big, we can just kind of push this up. All right. So then what we'll do is we're going to duplicate this artboard. And actually, before we duplicate this, we're going to duplicate it, but let's get the whole design up here first. I'm going to create kind of like a video player in the middle. So if we come out here right in the middle with the rectangle tool selected, we'll hold Alt, left click, drag out. Kind of just like an embedded video player, or it could be like a YouTube thumbnail or something like that. We'll go ahead and make this darker. Now, of course, I'm not going to put an actual video in here or anything like that. There's some plugins that I believe can allow you to actually put videos, but that's for a different topic and different time. Let's just create a rectangle. By the way, I should have used the polygon tool for that. No big deal. Actually, yeah, let us use that because that wasn't a very good. There we go. So Shift Alt. You can hold Shift to rotate while rotating to get us to a 90-degree angle. All right, that looks pretty good. And of course, you could take this further, and you can get a little bit more elaborate if you duplicate that element and then, you know, make this a little bit darker. You know, put another play icon here, down here for your controls. And then you could just, you know, you could keep on really just adding to it as much as you wish. For now, we're going to say this is good just to demonstrate what would happen when somebody clicks that link. So now I can take all these layers holding Shift and then group them up, Control G. And then we'll duplicate this. And what we'll do is we'll take this and we'll push it up a little bit and then hide it. We'll also take this overlay right there, and we'll drop that all the way down for the opacity. So then we go back to prototype. We're going to create a connect. We click on the actual artboard, and then we drag this little thing on the right to the next artboard, and it will be auto animate, but the trigger this time instead of tap is going to be time. And then for the delay, we'll put 0 seconds because we want this to happen instantaneously. So once the animation here is done where everything moves out, then this will come in. So now let's go ahead and select our original artboard, hit play, click this, and look at that. Very cool. So let me show you a couple other things about these properties here, which are really cool. So that duration, this is going at 1/3 of a second, so at 0.3 seconds. It's going quite fast. If we turn this up, you'll see that it actually, if we hit play, notice it's starting here because we have this artboard selected. If we hit our keyboard back key, we can cycle through the different artboards essentially that are a part of this flow. So if I go back here and click watch a video, that's a little bit better. I think it's that animation's better. There's a lot of different types of, there's several different types of easings. Like if we choose bounce, watch what it does to the animation. So it makes it bounce. Let's watch that from the start. So it's really cool. Sometimes you can use the wrong easings. That one doesn't really make sense. So ease in and out is always a nice one to use. It'll start slow, start slow, and then in the middle it's fast, and then it ends up slow as well. So ease in, out. But yeah, very cool stuff either way. So now let's also create another page. And another page, for instance, what happens when somebody clicks on try for free, this primary call to action. And I'll show you another way to create an interesting sort of, I guess you could say, animation, like for a loading graphic, like assuming something downloads when somebody clicks on try for free. So what's really cool is we can reuse these artboards in these different manners. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So if we take this try for free, we'll push this over to the same artboard. It's going to remember the previous settings that we used, which is okay. But if we click on this one beneath it, we'll see it's a ease out 0.3 seconds. So we can do the same thing, 0.3 seconds, ease out. All right. So now when somebody clicks on this, it's going to have the same effect. Notice, however, though, it ends up going to this one. Like when somebody clicks try for free, it shouldn't, forward over to that element. If you want to have like the same sort of animation occur for two different buttons that you click, we can just duplicate that original. And what we can then do is take this and we can separate this connection just by removing it like that, just left clicking it, and then we'll just drag it to this one. And then for this one, we'll take this connection off. All right, so now if we click this, hit try for free, now nothing happens because it doesn't go anywhere. So now what we can do is we'll go ahead and create, we'll just duplicate this. Let's push this down a little bit. Actually, instead of duplicating it, what we can do is design what we want to be there first. And we're going to create just a real simple page. In fact, we're going to copy, let's see here, this, and that's about it. By the way, we don't need this hidden graphic right there. All right, so we're going to paste that in, and this time they're both going to be centered. And we want to make sure that whatever they are, they're centered. There we go, right there. And we're going to put 1 moment while your download begins. Hold Alt and drag out so it's a little bit larger. It's about to get exciting or something, I don't know. And then we'll have a little loading graphic that animates indefinitely or infinitely. So to do that, we're just going to create a couple little circles, really. So Shift Alt, drag out, we'll make it our primary blue color. Duplicate it. All right, we'll take both. Control D to duplicate those. Hold Shift, and then create kind of like this this situation right here, and then we'll select all four and hit Control G to group them. So now, I would say also we'll take all these and we'll center them as well vertically within the available container. Right around there looks good. Okay, so now what we'll do is actually, let's go ahead and hide this too initially. There we go. So we'll duplicate this. We're going to bring this back. All right, and over here, we're going to make this fall down and in, so we'll hide it. And so let's just see what that looks like for now. Go back to Prototype tab and click this. This is going to be time with a 0-second delay, maybe 0.8 seconds, ease in and out. We'll hit play. Let's go back. Where's the home page? There we are. Try for free. All right. So we want this little graphic here to spin while we're waiting, essentially. So we'll go ahead and duplicate this, and we'll go to design, and then we'll make this spin, essentially. We can make it go pretty much all the way around, and notice. Now, what's going to happen if we put negative 360? Is it actually going to animate? Well, first we have to go to prototype, and we will drag this over, and we're at 0.8 seconds. Ease in, out. Let's change this to none. The easing might make it look weird. Actually, let's leave it there and see what happens. And then we'll also come back here and drag this artboard over to it, and that way it's going to go back and forth between these. So coming back here to our home, and by the way, you want to click on this little home icon, and notice how it says flow 1. You can have multiple what are called flows. We'll just call this main. Let's hit play. We'll click try for free. All right, it's a little bit strange because it's starting out like that. All right, I know why. It's because our easing. Is it because our easing? Ease in and out. 0.8 seconds. Easing's none. So let's do ease in, out. That it was looking a little bit strange like that. So let's hit play here. All right, so that's actually pretty cool. I like that. So obviously in a real world scenario, like a download pop-up, depending on your browser, would pop up, and this is what a user would see. Now, of course, you would also want to take your home, features, pricing, contact, all that, and start hooking those up all to your different artboards that you create. And so that's how you use the prototype feature. Of course, there's a lot of other different tiny features in there, a lot of other details, but I think those are the main parts that are worth pointing out. Now, one question you might have is, all right, so we created the desktop version of our site, at least the home page and a couple other sub pages. You would obviously need to do more work with more pages like the features page and the pricings page. But really, everything I taught you would give you the ability to create those pages on your own.